Thousands of displaced Gazans are returning to northern Gaza, where elation mixes with despair as families confront the devastation left by Israel's brutal offensive. They are facing many challenges in rebuilding their lives amid widespread destruction. Meanwhile, in the United States, President Donald Trump addressed House Republicans in Florida, calling for party unity and outlining his legislative priorities. We'll examine his comments on border security, tax cuts, and the future of the GOP's agenda. I'm Henny Saif. Let's get in focus. Families are happily reuniting as they make their way back to northern Gaza, to their homes, while also confronting the devastation wrought by the 15-month war that flattened neighborhoods and killed tens of thousands. In this context, the New York Times reported that for the first time in over a year, tens of thousands of Palestinians have reached their homes in the northern Gaza Strip, giving way to a mixture of elation and despair. However, returning home to northern Gaza, one of the places hit hardest during the war, was shocking to them as Israel's bombing campaign flattened entire neighborhoods, making them barely recognizable piles of rubble. And to shed more light on the return, we're joined from Cairo by Mohammed Abu Shama, the writer and political analyst. Mr. Abu Shama, thank you for joining us on In Focus. Now, after more than a year of displacement, many Palestinians are returning to their homes in northern Gaza, only to find them destroyed. Now, what is the emotional impact on these families who are experiencing both relief and despair?
There's no doubt the scene, to start with, I wish to salute you, the scene of the return to the North Gaza had filled the heart of the Arabs with joy, so they had suffered a lot. And he is returning for a part of the Palestinian state that was brutally demolished before the sight of the whole world. And they've all agreed upon that Israel had already made a real genocide throughout Gaza. Northern Gaza has a great portion of the genocide. Unfortunately, those who are returning have no shelters, enough food, or rather humanitarian necessities. Naturally, all the hospitals are non-operative in the northern of the Strip in a very dire condition. Even the families are missing their families who fell during these offensives. It's in a great and dire humanitarian conditions, and even the scene of their return was inspiring and had a great impact throughout the world, based on the path of the Palestinian cause. And I think that it will affect the future of the Gaza Strip. There's no doubt that Israel made a very great crimes and triggered a state of livelihood to the minimum. And due to the progress in Cairo and Qatar and the United States, even the last moment yesterday of facilitating the flow of the humanitarian aids through it, as well as the return of the Palestinian people through Nord Stream. We've seen around 3,500 trucks that have entered in the last days. It is a bit close to the agreed number they've agreed upon. And even Al Arish city have already was the path of the receiving several trucks, and with the assistance of the civil societies in Egypt, such as Tahya, Masr, and other charity organizations that consider it the longest flow of the Egyptian aid. So everyone is trying to assist him to be reheld after more than 15 months of suffering. And we've already have seen during the skin and Huaf have seen affected Gaza that led to 80% of the percentage of the displaced Palestinians. Most of the residents of the Strip, as well as all the infrastructure is already restricted, and we wish that this time will be overcome, and during particularly the first phase of the truce, then the start of the second phase that would allow the state of reconstruction to the Gaza Strip as the only way for giving the chance in the nation of Gaza to get back to normal again.
Mr. Abu Shama, now, before delving more onto the infrastructure and the reconstruction of Gaza, now the mass displacement of the Palestinians in northern Gaza during the IOF's military offensive has left hundreds of thousands without shelter. But what has been the psychological toll of this prolonged displacement, the mental health, and what steps are needed to address their needs?
The psychological impact, it's huge, and we've seen that all the Palestinians throughout the past months were living under the mass bombardment, and the families, most of them either fell martyr or wounded, as well as and the beginning of the hard weather, and that were left without any shelter, so that would grant them chances of living. All these features had a great impact of what been left of those alive. There's a great wound that cannot be healed. The few days that may require several months for the people to regain their strength again and to address their several needs as a result of the lack of the means of help, particularly in the absence of the UNRWA that was assisting and supporting the Palestinian in the Gaza Strip, and the absence of the UN role, and the failure of the international community before what has been done by the Israeli forces in the Gaza Strip, and lifted the Palestinian under the humiliation of the occupation. There's no doubt that the psychological, social, economic, and humanitarian state of the battered strip will affect these people for several years to come. It is a great disaster and a shame of Nakba that affected the strip, that their levels of livelihood never reached to that level before, to the minimum of living, as living in a great catastrophe that affected the upcoming generations. In light of these atmospheres and the insistence of the Israeli forces to continue the offensive, and that would not reach any type of peace, one of the dreams that the Israeli people wish to have, as they are not able to deal with the Palestinians in a better way and take an other proposed solution and deprive them of thinking of a glimpse of hope in the future in all levels. And we hope that Israel to abide of what agreed upon in a truce, not to stall of what agreed upon in execution, and to move forward of the truce.
Yes, well, Mr. Abu Shama, we've heard moments ago the speech by the Palestinian representative to the UN Security Council, speaking of the Palestinians returning to northern Gaza, and he reiterated the importance of the role of UNRWA, criticized Israel's handling of the organization now. How do you expect the UN Security Council to respond, and do you expect more empowerment to the role of UNRWA in Gaza? We rely naturally on, or rather, we do not rely that much on the organizations such as the UN Security Council, as have been becoming as just platform for talks. They're all lacking their abilities of a real result. Israel is reluctant, with the support of America, and dealing through this UN organization. UNRWA, since inception, practiced a great role that would remind Israel of the right of return of the Palestine, which is one of the pillars of the Palestinian, the return of the refugee, the were displaced after the first Nakba throughout the Palestinian Israeli. Mr. Mohammed Abu Shama, the writer and political analyst, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode of In Focus. Until we meet again, but now we will go to the UN Security Council, where the Egyptian representative to the UN Security Council will give his speech. Thank you for joining us.